In accordance with Public Law 231, notice of this meeting was provided to the press, the current, and the Galloway Township Municipal Building on the 9th of January 2016. First item this evening is we have minutes for February 22nd, 2016 and March 7th, 2016. Has everyone on the board had a chance to review the minutes? Can I have a motion to approve as presented? All those in favor? Please note that I will abstain on February 22nd. Great, thank you. Reading and communications.
Thank you, President Hubbard, and good evening, everyone. We have one item on the reading of communications. It's a letter from Commissioner Hespy providing information on classifying focus schools for the coming school year. With the last year of the ESEA waiver and the switch over to the new federal act regarding education, the Every Student Succeeds Act, there's going to be some new guidance regarding how schools get in and out of different status. So I have been in communication with several officials of the Department of Ed, actually working my way up the chain to find out more information about what's happening with Smithville School. All the anecdotal reports are exceedingly positive. Everyone from the DOE who has visited is extremely impressed. But there are some minor data points. They're very isolated in nature that have not allowed movement. So I am working to make this classification move forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Presentations, please.
Yes, our first presentation involves both middle level and elementary school students who are here tonight with their families and their teachers to be recognized for participation in select bands. So President Hubbard, if we can go to the microphone, we can take care of that. Start off with the All South Jersey Junior High Honors Band. So if I could ask the band directors and the administrators from those schools to come on up, that would be wonderful. And as they're coming forward, we have Mr. O'Keefe, the band director at Smithville, and Mr. Thom from Reeds Road. Also joining us, we've got Dr. Hathaway, the principal of Smithville, and Mr. Lawrence, I must say, in complimentary color, along with Mr. Lake Happy, assistant principal at Reeds Road. He is the president of the State Music Association. That makes sense.
Thanks, Ben. For the junior high portion, this is a program that's offered to students in grades 6, 7, and 8. And about 80 schools were involved this year from throughout the 7 counties that make up South Jersey, Toms River, all the way to Toms River down to Cape May, up towards Cherry Hill. And we were very fortunate to have students from Smithville, Reeds Road, and GTMS represented. The students prepare very rigorous audition material, memorize scales, solo portion, as well as sight reading where they have to play music that they've never seen. So once accepted, the audition took place at the end of January. They're placed into one of 2 bands, and from there they rehearse about once a week through February, and then they put on a concert at Lower Cape May Regional High School at the end of February, which was a great concert. And we were very fortunate. Do you want to just read it?
What I was going to say, if you want to, Mr. O'Keefe, you will announce the Smithville students.
Sure. From Smithville School, we had 2 students accepted. First, Samantha Ingerson on the trombone. student, I'm not sure that I saw her here, but Kayla Muniz on trumpet. Sure. And then we had 4 students from the middle school level. Quinn Aston on the tuba. We had Sydney Mullen on the flute, and you'll notice on the agenda that this is Sydney's 3rd consecutive year participating. She was accepted as a 6th grader, 7th grader, and now as an 8th grader. Connor Morrissey, also on the trombone, and you'll notice that this is Connor's 2nd consecutive year as a 7th grader this year, and also last year as a 6th grader. All Smithville students all had too. And then we had also Matthew Gabora on malice. Congratulations.
I have one student that qualified for the junior high level, junior high honors band, and that's Dario Kusevsky, but he's not able to be here tonight. Dario? And for the elementary honors band, it's a one-day event that's going to be taking place at the end of April. I had 5 students that are going to be participating in that. Sophia Amaro, she's not here. Kayla Kirby on clarinet. Bella Mann on flute. Chris Stepp on trumpet. And Raj Stepp, also on trumpet.
And we also had 5 students accepted to the elementary level program. First, Cooper Craig on baritone saxophone. Sarah Gazaz on bass clarinet. Jenna Mullen on alto sax. Ella Perkins on clarinet. And Dean Winkworth, percussion.
Back, if you are relatively while we are waiting for the computer to warm back up, the next portion of our board agenda is a presentation related to the 2016-17 budget. For those families that came out for instrumental music recognition, we certainly encourage you to stay, so as parents you are informed. Should you need to scoot home, we understand, but we love to have an audience. So this is a great crowd to learn a little more about the budget. So we thank you for being here. Is that one? There it is. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. This evening's budget presentation is a follow-up to a presentation that was made at our February 22nd Board of Education meeting, as well as our March 7th special budget workshop meeting last Monday. Those of you that come to board meetings every year at budget time will recognize this graphic from prior years. Creating a budget for a school district this size is a balancing act. And that balancing really comes in two different ways. One of the ways is within the district. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of instructional needs, be it supplies, be it personnel, be it equipment, technology. And then there's non-instructional needs, infrastructure things, the infrastructure for the technology, keeping the facilities up to date, just to name a few. So we have to look to make sure in any given budget year, we are balancing what we are keeping in the budget and where we have to reduce, where we are balancing, where we are reducing. So it does not too much skew to one side or the other. In certain years, does it have to lean more than one side? Yes, it does. But we're always looking to balance the instructional with the non-instructional. The other balance our district always seeks to do is between having a quality school district, providing the very best for our children with understanding the economy. And our taxpayers, be they taxpayers who have children in the school district, grandchildren in the school district, do not have children currently in the school district. So we're balancing all these different dynamic forces that each plays an important part. And certainly this Dr. Seuss, it is Read Across America, or it was Read Across America earlier this month, really shows all of that in one simple little picture. First part of the presentation is what is the process we use and what are some key factors. So, to date, initially there were memos sent out, and I will say that we began the budget process with Mrs. Anaya, our business administrator at the time, who has since left the district to go to another district, and we are finishing the budget process with Mr. Valise, our interim business administrator. So this has happened over the course of both of those administrators, with everyone else being the same folks involved. A lot of the early work does happen in the business office with updating of salaries, finding out from the different insurance companies, benefits, all those different costs, what are the increases. Because just like in someone's own personal budget, there are things that increase that are beyond our control. Gas prices certainly come to mind. At the February 9th meeting, we did an informational presentation to show where is our district right now fiscally. We received state aid 2 days after the governor's budget address. We did receive a very slight increase, about $117,000 more. It certainly doesn't cover the increase in cost, but considering in most recent years we've either gotten less or it's been flat, we will certainly take that extra. After that, we have administrative meetings. Some of them are done whole group, some of them are done in small groups, by school, by department, and we really start to look at what were all the requests that the different departments and schools made, and how does that play in terms of our revenues, in terms of what is known as the tax levy cap, and how much we actually can, and how much the board decides we will grow the budget from one year to the next. Prior to last Monday, we did our initial comprehensive review. And because of that review, we started to make reductions from all of those initial requests in looking at where we knew the budget may fall. Last Monday, we had a budget workshop. So it was a board meeting, it was a public board meeting. There was no action taken, but it was an opportunity to talk about the state of the budget for board members, or if members of the public were interested, to ask questions and to give input. Following last Monday's meeting, we worked last week to identify additional reductions. So one of the things you're going to see tonight as I slide through the presentation is what major things are in the budget and what things are we looking to reduce because of the factors, the fiscal factors of next year's budget. There were also some contacts made by Mr. Valise to the county office and one of the charter school officials to find out some more information, and some of those factors you will see have an impact on what is decided about our budget. So some basics. If we look at overall student enrollment, we are up 21 students from last year. That is really an insignificant number because it's not just about the total, it's about looking at each grade level. Especially where we have 4 elementary schools of the same grade configuration, we try to make sure at each grade level there is equity, so that in one school there aren't 27 kids in, say, a 3rd grade class, and in another school there's only 19. That would be viewed as inequitable. So we do have to look not just at that overall enrollment, but what is the enrollment at each school, what is the enrollment at each grade level, and then certainly we need to look at special education enrollment and particular needs in that area, as well as things like ESL or any other mandated specialized programs. A positive factor for next year's budget is the fact that the middle school debt is paid this year. That's a very exciting thing. The middle school turned 16 in February from its original opening. And that is a factor that really sets the stage to help us for next year's budget. Because with that debt paid, that is a chunk, there's something called debt service, that we don't have that huge number as an expense. On the flip side, however, the ratables, also known more formally as the net valuation taxable, decreased by $12.4 million. So while this factor helps us, this factor negates some of that advantage. When we look at the tax levy cap, and I want to explain that by state law, the school district is allowed to increase the tax levy by 2%. In our district, almost half of the budget is funded through state aid and about half through the local tax levy. So the tax levy can go up 2%, but the budget dollars in real dollars can really only go up about 1%. So if we took last year's budget, the tax levy part of it, and applied the 2% cap, this is the total tax levy that could be put forth for next year. When we look at that in dollars and cents, what was the total dollar amount in last year's budget, in the current year's budget, and what is the dollar amount that can be in next year's budget? If the board decides to go to that cap, we can increase the budget by $612,000. Now, as an individual person, that sounds fantastic. In a nearly $60 million budget with 6 schools and thousands of students, although it is an increase from one year to the next, it does not go very far in a world with increasing expenses and mandates and just making sure we're providing a good education. The other thing that the state allows If in the 3 prior years, the board did not go to that cap, they didn't exercise their right to increase the tax levy by that 2%, they banked, and it's not real money, but they banked the ability to increase the budget even more. And so throughout the presentation, you will hear this concept of banked cap. Again, it's not money sitting in an account, it's the ability to grow the budget. So if you look at these two numbers, if the board goes to the 2% cap, we can increase the total dollars by this amount. If they choose to increase it even beyond that, they can only go as much as this banked cap. One of the things you will hear explained as we go on is that because of the middle school debt falling off, we can increase the budget at a much, much, much lower cost to the taxpayer than in any other year, certainly in the 22 years I have been in the school district. More to come about that. This is a quick look at the revenues, and as you can see, the local tax levy is a little more than half. This big red portion is state aid. Fund balance is the portion from the prior year that was not expended, and a required amount of fund balance must be budgeted in the next year's budget for taxpayer relief. And then we have, we can withdraw from capital reserve to help us with our larger projects. And then there's miscellaneous. You'll see a slide, in fact I believe it's the next one, about tuition, where we take in students from other districts. We're not a choice school or anything like that, but sometimes we have a specialized program in special education that a smaller district might not have. And so we will take that student into our district for tuition. That is the next slide. So looking ahead to next year's budget, with the programming that's being done and through our Director of Special Ed, who's also here this evening, Mrs. Baldwin, we anticipate at least 5 special education students coming from other districts into Galloway. In fact, one contacted her today, and that family is actually interested in having their child start this year. In addition to that, in our preschool program, we always provide for the special education 3- and 4-year-olds. We provide for a very, very limited number of economically disadvantaged 4-year-olds. And then we have a small number of slots for children that are general education and they do not qualify under economically disadvantaged. In many, many school districts, those families are charged tuition. Generally speaking, it's less than they might be paying in a private provider. So one of the things we did talk about was if we have those slots, and we anticipate at least 4 or 5, perhaps more, that we charge some form of tuition for those slots. And then lastly, we receive funds that get flowed through to the non-public schools, but in some instances, our own staff can provide those services, and so therefore that can become a revenue source as well. So when we were looking at those initial budget requests and balancing it, revenues and expenditures have to match, we tried to think of what sources are there to increase revenue. Now this is the expenditure part of the pie, and education is a people business. When parents send their children to school, they want a teacher that are greeted, in the morning by the principal, the assistant principal, and see other folks who are involved in educating their children. So the green part of the pie is salaries. I don't believe that surprises anyone. And the red is health benefits, and then there's a variety of other categories. I will remind everyone, under the law, all employees that receive health benefits now contribute to their health benefits. One of the things that the Department of Education does every year is they do efficiency checks. And they look at 7 factors in a school district, and the business administrator and superintendent are invited to the county office, and they go over this information with us. And so there are areas where they look at a per student basis. And on this side of the slide, the word less is a good thing. Being less than the state average is seen as being efficient, and you are commended by the Department of Ed for doing that. So in terms of administrative costs, I'm not going to read this off to you, but you can see we are far below the state average. Same thing on operations of plant and maintenance, and also on legal services. On the right side, these efficiency standards are staff ratios, be it support staff to students, administrative personnel to students, or administrative personnel to faculty. On this side of the efficiency, being above is a favorable rating. So there are 7 standards. I will say, for the last 2 years, we were on the favorable side of all 7. For the current year, one area, support services, we were slightly above state average. What is interesting is our ratio of education support staff to students is a favorable rating. So there's probably a lot of factors that go into this. But in speaking with the county superintendent and business administrator, they had high commendations for us that we, in recent years, have either met all 7 or have only missed one of them. And obviously, we will analyze that and look for the future. But we're very proud of those efficiencies. One of the other things we'd like to point out this year is, school districts, we spend money. We need to do that to educate the children. But what do we do to save money? On the left-hand side of this slide are things that we have done for years. So this top portion shows everything from in-house work to administrators serving multiple roles, where we can do some shared services. We have closed schools, although this isn't a good thing for everyone, but we have eliminated courtesy busing for children who live between 2 miles, except where there are hazardous roads. We use a lot for grants, so a lot of things that we have been doing for years. This bottom half, you may recall, I believe it was 6 or 7 years ago, there was a significant decrease in state aid. That was Governor Christie's first year as governor, and in our district, the only way we met a budget was to have massive reductions. We reduced 65 positions that year. In many instances, those positions have never been returned at all or have only been returned partially. So these are all of those positions that we have maintained that reduction. On the right-hand side are some newer things. This year, our printing contract for our copy machines was renegotiated for a savings of, I believe, more than $20,000 for the year. We also implemented something recently called secured printing, which instead of teachers doing all their print jobs to their classroom printer, they can send them to a copy machine in the building, and then they go to the machine and punch a code, and their job comes out. That's important because printing to the copy machine is much, much cheaper than printing to the classroom printer. We do have phys ed health teacher retiring at the end of the year, and based on review of scheduling, we are not going to replace that position for a cost savings. And last year, we reduced homeroom teachers, 8 at the elementary level and 1 at the middle school. We are keeping all of those reductions in place with the exception of we are asking to return 2 of those positions at the elementary level to account for where we have class size needs in K through 6. This deserves a slide all of its own. Energy management is an effort of the entire staff and students. Steve BOE, our facilities manager, is the energy manager for the district as part of his job. And what this slide shows is what the district has done through this energy management program in the last 5 years. On the environmental side, you can see this is good for us. It reduces our carbon footprint. On the fiscal side, just since May 15, we've saved $500,000, and a 5-year total you can see is $5.8 million. And so these are all the kinds of things we do as a district, A, to help the taxpayers, but B, if we're not spending money on energy, not only are we helping the environment, but where we do need that to go to facilities projects or instructional materials, the money can be put to those good uses. So, I mentioned all the departments and administrators submitted their budgets. This slide has major highlights of the initial budget, what I would call the instructional side. And it does certainly not list everything. The work pages of the budget are about 150 pages of details. But you can see one of the things we have is we like to keep what we already have. We feel we have very good programs, very good services. We're not asking to expand, but we're at least asking to maintain. Class size has been and remains a priority. And then you can see some other things, whether it's for teachers and professional development that ultimately affects the children. We have iPads. I know this sounds crazy, but our first ones are already beginning to age and get close to end of life. Our desktop units in our library and computer lab have actually reached and are hanging on their life and their usefulness. And then we have our teacher and principal and other administrator evaluation. Obviously, we need to maintain our curriculum and materials and training related to all of the standards. Language arts and math remain a large focus because of the changes with the Common Core. We need to make sure that we continue to have all the proper materials and training and that our students can learn and understand what is more rigorous content. We need to be ready technologically for PARC, and for next year, the next set of standards that the state is looking at and mandating implementation are the next gen science standards. For 2016-17, we need to revise our curriculum to align with these standards. These standards are very different. Some of the content is different, some of the expectations for what students not only know but are able to do in terms of scientific processes. So there is some funding that is needed both to do the curriculum work, to train the teachers, and to purchase the necessary materials. Fortunately, they are doing 6 to 8 only for next year. We do not have to do all of the grade levels in 1 year. Projected elementary class size. As I mentioned earlier, we have 4 schools that all have K-6. So here you have the range. So the smallest might be 15 children and the highest might be 17, for example, in first grade. And then I also listed the average. Generally speaking, we look for smaller averages in younger grades and we'll go to higher averages in the higher grades. I should note, have we had class size, especially in these upper grades, larger than this? Yes, we have. And you might say, well, why aren't you having 25 or 26 children in a 5th or 6th grade class projected for next year? The problem becomes if you have a certain number of teachers in that grade level. There are grades where we might reduce a homeroom teacher and shift them to another grade, etc. If we take away just because we think 22 is too low, then the projected number might be a 30, which is not acceptable to us to have students in a class. The rigor of the content, the physical size of the room, the space for small group instruction, for the technology. I should note that these numbers are based on February 2016 enrollment, real enrollment. Children that are in the school right now, rolled up 1 year, so current first grade becomes second, and so on, with no adjustments. And kindergarten, obviously, we have to estimate. So at this point, we just use the current kindergarten numbers and replicate that. As I noted on the screen, we monitor through kindergarten registration throughout the summer. We have families move out. We also have lots of registration. And if we see a number that doesn't work anymore, we will make that adjustment. And we have done that adjustment as late as the end of August or the very beginning of the school year. I see some of our administrators where we actually had to call a teacher and say, look, kindergarten enrollment has come in lower than expected this year, but we had a lot of students move into second grade. I need a teacher who's going to shift grade levels. And we have fabulous staff, and someone always steps to the plate and gets that done. I should also say you don't see preschool. Preschool's class size varies. A lot of our preschool programs are special education. Generally speaking, per code, 15 is the maximum number of children you can have in a preschool class. And then finally, you don't see middle school listed because of the changing of classes and some of the accelerated programs. I could give you an average, but a teacher in their first period class might have 19 students, and their fifth period class might have 30, because you can't get that perfect balance because of the nature of middle school scheduling. On the non-instructional side, again, these are highlights of things that are in the original budget, and you can see a lot of it is replacement of things. Please remember the middle school at 16 years old is now the baby in our school facility family, and our other schools are in their 20s, which for people is young, but not necessarily for buildings, and certainly Arthur ran much older than that. So you see carpet replacement, paintings of gym walls and ceilings, road paving, modular roof, cleaning equipment, maintenance equipment, and we also want to do some things to enhance school security. On the capital project side, last summer we replaced 2 fire alarms. This summer we will, and that was at Smithville and Arthur Grant. So this summer, Reeds and Roland will have their fire alarm systems replaced. I am pleased to say a little more than 40% of those projects are from what's known as a ROD grant through the state. So, I mentioned earlier that after we ran all the numbers, we had to make reductions. So last Monday, what was presented to the board and the public were the initial set of reductions. And this particular slide shows categories and the amounts that total more than $600,000 in reductions on the instructional side of the budget. And I apologize, that curtain's not quite open, but some of them are general supply kind of things, some of them are content supplies, some of them are purchase services, some of them have to do with professional development. Some of them we learned about another retirement after the initial run. We weren't finishing the scheduling to see would it work without that additional phys ed health teacher. So it is a variety of things, and that is all on the instructional side. On the non-instructional side, what was presented last Monday were over $500,000 of reductions that had to do mainly with facility. And you could see, again, window replacement, stair treads, lighting, carpeting, painting, all different categories. Sometimes there's also a line, and this is where Mr. Valise's expertise in looking at the current year budget and looking at the proposed budget comes in, where maybe something was budgeted higher than it needed to be, and we can make a reduction there as well. So last Monday, when we met with the board, these were all reductions that we presented to the board. The direction from the board that evening was that we do need to go further and to come tonight with scenarios that would show the different options the board had. So for example, this slide is a summary of those reductions that were done as of March 4th. And you see this total. These reductions, this $1.1 million, brought the budget to a level where we would use that 2% tax levy cap and that bank. If you remember those numbers, it was about $612,000 and then about another $400 and some thousand. So even though we were growing the budget about $1 million, we still had to cut $1.1 million. Let's go forward. Mr. Valise and I did some extra work, and I really have to credit this slide much to his efforts. He reviewed what was budgeted for Social Security, looked at staffing projections, looked at history, and was able to identify this number here. One of the things we discussed with the board last week is, although the Galloway Community Charter School closed, a charter school that originated in Atlantic City purchased that building. And the Department of Ed, when they said our state aid and other budget information, told us to budget for 51 children at a cost of $732,000. The direction from our board was, and I agree, we don't believe there's going to be that many children from this school district in that charter school. So Mr. Belize reached out to the county office, and he also spoke to officials from the charter school. And this is new information that we just learned this afternoon. He had a conversation with the county VA as well. The board can opt to budget less than the original amount designated by the state. And Mr. Belize and I are recommending that we do $229,000 left. Two things are supposed to happen. One, the charter school is supposed to agree that you're not going to budget for that 51 students. And today, the official was not willing to make that commitment. Although the numbers are unofficial, we know there are far fewer than 51 children who has applied to the school as of today. And then there needs to be approval by the county. So the board can opt to do this, but there are some things we need to still work our way through. The other thing the board can do is use more excess surplus, which is something we only want to bring that number down so low, and it has decreased every year for the past several years. So this $229,000, we made the reduction. We need to finalize how we are doing that. So what else? And I know you can't read everything on this slide, but now we want to look at the scenario where the board went to cap but only used half of the bank. So all of those reductions, 1.1 million you saw on the prior slide, plus another 151,000. And this is basically where we just dig a little deeper. And I do need to say, just because we identify something for reduction does not mean it was not a legitimate budget request. It means when you only have so much money, just like in your home budget, you have to prioritize. So there are reductions, again, across instructional and non-instructional. For example, instead of replacing 5 classrooms of carpet in every room, and every school will only do 4. Other projects, the restroom partitions being replaced at Smithville, cut. A number of different supply accounts reduced. One of the things we generally do in the local budget is put in money for professional development, whether it's in-house or out of district. We have taken almost every dollar of PD out of the local budget. And we get something called Title IIA money, which can be used for professional development. We would only do what that can allow. If you ask me what that number is, I can't tell you that because we don't get that from the federal government until after the budget process is completed. But again, you have to prioritize. Some of this came obviously from talking to different administrators, asking them to look at what we might be able to do. So that is a list of things to get to this cap plus only using half the bank. Next scenario is if the board is willing to go to that cap but not use any of the bank. And so here you have additional reductions. And I will say this out loud. There might be something on this list in the end that we decide we want to keep in a different scenario and swap out something. Every bit of that detail does not have to be totally finalized this evening. But here, the carpet replacement goes down to 3 rooms. One of the personnel requests was for an LDTC. The Smithville Child Study Team does not have 3 members. Right now, they don't have self-contained classes. They may in the fall. I took it out, but I made the note, if we get enough IDEA money, which is also federal money for special education, or the child study team has identified a few students that are out of district that may return because of the programming, I would make the request that if either of those categories could cover that we do get that position. We used to have someone who ran our child care program in community ed and handled community use of school facilities. When she retired, an existing administrator took that position. In addition to supervising nurses, a lot of other things. Right now, we are not charging any of that administrator's salary to the enterprise account for child care. We could opt to do that. We have money in for miscellaneous architect fees. We reduced that. We had done some library book reductions. This would be a further reduction. Sometimes we have reserves in, so we just kept chipping away. And I will admit this very openly. It was Friday afternoon at 6:30, and I wanted to get this information to the board. So when I hit $26,000, I said miscellaneous, and there's a couple different ways we could get to that. This page alone is $228,407. So to recap that, taking in all the budget requests, again, all legitimate requests on the instructional and non-instructional side. If the board decides this evening to go to cap and use all of the bank, we still have to reduce $1.1+ million. If the board allows us to use half of the bank, that goes up to 1.69. If the board only goes to cap, the reductions are almost $2 million. And certainly if the board did not go to cap, and I did not present that scenario, that was not one of the ones I was asked to present, it would be even more. So as you can see, the state does allow us to go to this cap, and this is where this balance comes in. Help the taxpayers, but also have a quality school district. I do want to point out that some of the things in the budget have been repeatedly reduced or eliminated from the budget year after year. So I looked up the last couple of years. Every year we reduce instructional supplies, library books and textbooks. The iPad replacement or expansion has been reduced. Now this one, desktop and monitor replacement, on those proposed reductions, you did not see that. Our libraries and computer labs have to get new computers. Our manager of technology worked out a lease that we can get them all for next year, but pay for them over 5 years, which of course that's a 5-year commitment, but it helps us. On the non-instructional side, again, the supplies have been cut. The carpet replacements, we are behind on that rotation because we keep eliminating them. There are different pieces of maintenance and custodial equipment. Some have been reduced, some have not. The painting of the gyms, the stair tread replacement, the window replacement. And I just point this out to show that every year, because of the economy and because of state aid not growing and us relying so much on it, we are faced with these challenges. So, especially for taxpayers, which is all of us, no matter where you live, what does this mean? So I'm going to start over here and go this way. If the board goes to the cap and uses all of the bank, looking at all the information, the net valuation that I mentioned, which are the ratables, the new tax rate would be 1.170. This is the current tax rate, 1.159, so you have this difference of 0.011, which is less than a % increase. On a home assessed at $200,000, that would be $22.79 for the year, or $5.70 per quarter. If the board opted to go to the cap but only use half of the bank, you can see that adjusts these numbers. And here, you're talking still of, you have this 0.60%. For the year, on a home assessed at $200,000, we are talking about $14.32, or $3.58 a quarter. If the board goes to cap, without using any of the bank, you can see that number decreases down to 0.26%. For the year, on a home assessed at $200,000, we are talking about $5.85 a year, or $1.46 a quarter. And I need to say this especially to the taxpayers and those that are concerned about taxes. We realize that any increase is more than people really want. I get that. But because of some of the factors this year, most importantly, the middle school debt falling off, we will never be able to do even what we're doing with the budget, with the reductions, but what remains in the budget for this low of a tax increase in any of these categories. Because once this year passes, then you work from the next year's tax levy, from the next year's total dollars. So this is a year where we can get more done, even with the reductions that are even necessary with the bank, at a lower cost than it would have cost last year, or certainly in the years I've been in this job and even before that. So I do want to point that out. Steps to be completed. Tonight, the board obviously will ask questions and give input. There will also be an opportunity for public questions or comment. The board has to pass a resolution, and if you look at the agenda tonight, that item under finance is blank because we don't know what the board is going to decide tonight, but Mr. Valise did bring all three scenarios with him, so we have the proper language. So the board will have to pass a resolution this evening to set the budget, because between now and March 31st, we need to do all the rest of the tasks, and Mr. Valise's business administrator has all kinds of things he has to enter into the state budget software. Some of it can be a work in progress, but the most important thing is the budget itself cannot be done until after the board acts. Then, between now and April 25th, there might be more budget discussions, as I mentioned. Even though you set that rate, you can A, change how you're spending the money within that rate, or B, change your mind about the rate you set. But on April 25th, that is the evening that the board must pass a resolution, and then that sets the budget, that sets the tax rate for next year. The only other thing I do want to say is, there were a few people at last week's meeting, and at one point Mr. Valise was talking about it was a zero tax increase, and one of the things that can be confusing is a school district's fiscal year is from July 1st to June 30th. The rest of the world, including your taxes, are from January 1 to December. Technically speaking, the 16-17 budget at half, there is no tax increase. But for a taxpayer, half of your tax bill is part of last year's budget and this year's budget. Your next year's tax bill, so it's that split year because the school district works on a different calendar than the municipality, and let's face it, the rest of the world, in terms of budgeting. So I do want, for those of you that were here, that was not an error when he said that was a zero. That was for our budget year, not the fiscal year that impacts taxpayers. So with that, that is the presentation, and I will turn it over to the board president for the question and comment section.
At this time, I'll entertain questions from the board table, and then we will go out for public comment. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Conover. Last Monday night, we had several pieces of information discussing different cuts and different ways to raise money, tax rates and everything. I think basically we're looking at some options that Dr. Jacobs has provided, whether we go to our 2% cap, whether we take some of the bank cap or not. I've been thinking a lot, and I'm not sure I've got a compromise, but what I emphasized last week for the public information is that We were looking at $5.85 a year. That's a little less than 50 cents a month tax increase for the school district. Never happened before. My thought process was 50 cents is palatable. I'm just thinking more of it's not on the charts. I was kicking around and talked to John Moore, who's not available to come tonight, but I was thinking more of like maybe $1 a month, which would be $12, which puts us over the 2% cap, but puts us less than the half the bank cap. So what I was looking overall, rather than percentages and everything, let's just break it down to just what dollar per month would we be satisfied with? Because we know at cap we're just about 50 cents, a little less, but I'm thinking maybe if we did $1 a month, which is unprecedented in this school board's history, besides zero. Yeah, besides zero, $1 a month might be a compromise. And again, it's open for discussion. I'm leading the discussion tonight because I was thinking about it, but we're anywhere from that $5.85 up to $22, I believe it is.
And that's not using any of the bank account?
My $12 recommendation, it's using a small piece of it. I don't have the dollar, that's why I'm focusing more on the dollar increase per month.
$14 a year would be half of the bank.
Okay, so it's less,
It's a little less.
so is it 40% of the bank? I mean, whoever's the math wizard on the table.
This is a part question.
But, I was looking at that, and I'm asking my fellow board members to possibly look at it that way. Let's forget about caps and all that. What dollar amount per month would be acceptable as an increase, starting with 50 cents and possibly going all the way up to almost $2. It's like $1.90 or something. So I open it up for discussion. Who wants to start?
Yeah, Mr. President, many years, 15, is that on the other side of my past colleagues as administrators, waiting for us to go to cap, or hoping we would go to cap. I know you don't want to talk about percentages, you'd rather talk about dollars, I can understand that. But by going to the 2% cap, which always didn't happen, with Dr. Giaquino was at zero increase there, and this is, a unique time here where we're talking about the slide of rateable reductions of the town, 12.5 million. I know we're not responsible as the Board of Education for setting tax rates and worrying about that, but coming up with an appropriate, thorough, and efficient education. I think there's some reality we have to take a look at that there, where we made a reduction of staff from last year of retirements of 15, and now we're going to add 2, which we need that. So there's still a reduction of 13 staff from last year. I recommend that we stay, or not stay, go to the 2% cap. And I think that's appropriate. We have to look at the other factors that be happening in this county, which is the effect of what the county rate's going to be with the problems of Atlantic City. I mean, it's just, why this is advantageous for us because of the debt service for the middle school. There just is a lot of other negative aspects of the tax rate, and I would recommend that you go to the 2% cap and stay there.
Thank you, Mr. Hand. Madeline?
I would just like maybe add to explain the downside of not using the bank cap, if you could. Do you know what I mean? Like going to 2% and not using any of the bank cap, like why is that a negative? Is that a negative situation for a school district? And why? Could you just explain that briefly?
Well, it's a negative because you have 3 years to use the bank cap. So if you don't use it within 3 years, they start falling off. And you don't get to use it. So it does get reduced if you just continue on to carry this.
You can't carry it.
You can carry it 3 years, and that's it.
So it's a situation of using or losing.
And how much would we
how much would we lose this year if we don't go to the bank cap?
You wouldn't lose anything this year.
This year, right. So this year, if we stay
If we stay at the 2% cap, we can only go to that. There is no loss for this year.
However, if I may add, Mr. Hand, it'll cost more dollars next year.
If we decide to go beyond.
Right. So that's why we're looking at it this year.
So the ramifications for next year, like, you have to look ahead besides this year. So the ramifications for next year and not using the bank cap this year would put us in a more challenging situation next year.
Because of the paying of the debt off.
Right.
Service, you have a chance to use that portion of the tax levy this year against the general tax levy, basically. So, but next year, you will have that, your capital based on the general tax levy alone, and you'll have 2% on that, but if you use that in your cap, then when you raise it even higher, the amount of tax.
So projecting ahead, and I'm just looking at this, I mean, I'm not an accountant, as you well know. But, I mean, I don't necessarily, I bought a pound of cheese at Santori's today for $5.99. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't see prices, right, maybe I won't buy it next year, but I don't see prices going down, I don't see the cost of things decreasing. I see them increasing. Not that, not that wages are increasing at the same rate, but you understand what I'm saying. So I'm trying to look ahead to next year. Is there going to be a more challenging budget for us to deal with next year as opposed to this year, which I don't necessarily find, extraordinary in any way?
Absolutely, next year will be more challenging.
One of the things, Madeline, that was disclosed or discussed was that every year we have, for lack of better words, excess fund balance rolled over year after year. And what that is that 2 years ago, we said we were going to spend $28 million, and we ended up spending, say, $27.5 million. So that $500,000 gets forward to be used to reduce not the next year, the following year's budget. Because by the time you get that number, your budget's already done for the following year. So what I'm saying is that with the monies that we don't use, by law, we have to go to taxpayer relief and roll that forward. Now, we've had a cushion of started with $2.6 million several years ago, and it's shrinking every year because we keep shipping at that to keep the taxes lower. Now, it's all taxpayer money, and it's all being spent, and it's all being accounted for. It's just that money that we didn't use in a previous year, we're rolling forward, okay? And every year we eat away at that carryover, it's going to start affecting the tax rate. So.
President Hubbard, if I could just remind, last year, we did 0.5%. The year before, we did 1.6%. The year before that, we did go to the 2% cap, and I believe the 2 years before that, we did zeros. So if we just look at that picture, I believe the board has been very responsible. The years that you went to cap and did the 1.6, I believe they were roofing project years. And, we had the failed referendums, and so the board kept putting money into capital reserve that could be transferred into capital projects. So one of the things I think Mrs. Avery is getting at is that if the board is ever going to consider to go to cap or use the bank, this is the year to do it. Do you know what I'm saying? And again, I realize that all these scenarios are challenging because there are those people who are concerned that they can't afford what the taxes are now. But I just want to keep that in mind. If we keep not using what's available, it becomes smaller and smaller. And what we don't want to see is a crisis where we either have to make very painful reductions in the budget, or really raise the taxes a lot. So it is finding that balance, and I think that's part of where you're coming from with the somewhere between the cap and the half and back.
And that's just an idea. Mr. Days?
I agree with you, you compromise somehow. What I always worries me is what that mandates next year, where you have money in the bank or whatever, take care of it. If you don't get any money from the state of Pennsylvania for that, you stay do it.
Well, I think it was evident tonight, one of the projects the curriculum has on the budget for next year is science, 2000, for the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
It could be
Right.
the Common Core.
Right, so, I mean, the state mandates it, and they don't pay for it. So the taxpayers here in Galloway have to pay for it.
I agree with you, though, I think we could compromise somehow,
It's only a thought.
but I agree with you.
Mike, would you like to add?
Yeah, I think the opportunity to expand the budget with such a small impact on the taxpayer is something we can't squander, and we need to make use of this. I'd love to see us go to 2% cap plus the full bank. I mean, $23 for the whole year is nothing. And it's also important to remember that the quality of the school district has a direct impact on the valuation of the homes in this area. That if we don't grow, but we can, if we reach that point where we have to make those very painful cuts, that really is going to have a direct impact on the value of homes in this town.
Yeah, but what in again is kind of, nobody taking long for saying this, but if we could go with no increase whatsoever, next year we'll take the news to the possible.
Well, unfortunately, yes, because what will happen is,
I'm not a guy who loves to spend taxpayers' money, but the end product is important to me and everybody else, I'm really sure. But use it now or use it later.
yeah, because as we sat here as a board, so the public knows, in previous years, even if we went up a 0.5%, half cent, you were talking possibly $120 or $180 a year for that. A year. Okay, so we're really talking anywhere from $6 a year to $23 a year. So, again, this is a phenomenon that's only happening because of the debt service of the middle school children. So, Mr. Anacone?
What makes us think that we put off some of this stuff that could be cheaper next year to buy it? You know, we don't know if our noses right in our face, like we're not gonna replace the steering trailers. So we'll do it next year, and it'll cost 10% more. If we don't do it, it's 20% more a year after that. I really think we're not using our heads. I have to agree with Mike. Let's go to 2% cap plus bank. $23 is not a lot of money for a $200,000 home. $2 a month.
Okay. Thank you. Beverly?
Thank you. As you all know, I tend to be a conservative with money because I am used to a mother who reused wax paper. But at any rate, I want to again say, being a representative for the senior citizens, I have feedback from people that watch things and think about things a great deal. And this week, in thinking about this a lot again, I want to again say, many of them do not understand that we're a K-8 district, okay? They see us as K-12, okay? And then they find out about the high school on top of it, okay? So we're sitting here and intellectually I understand what's being said, but emotionally, and again representing these people, they don't get the message that we're not a K-12. All right, so they're going to add this onto that, and we don't know yet. Am I correct? Any guesstimate at all what the high school budget may be?
I was at a meeting last Tuesday night with their superintendent. They were not forthcoming with dollar amounts,
Right.
but they are going to cap without a doubt. Correct?
That's right, but
Yeah.
I also have in my head that it is not an operating impact on Galloway, but I don't have.
Right, they're going to cap, may not be as significant as it's been in the past because of the enrollment. Don't forget, their calculations are a lot different based on enrollment.
Yes.
So, but yes, Galloway's portion is going to cap from Greater Harbor Region.
Okay, so again, if you were to add what that may be, but not as great, or in the past, what might the cumulative money amount be for Galloway taxpayer?
I'm not prepared.
What's the cumulative?
Yeah, we would have to go back and look.
I would have to look that up.
It's somewhere about equal, about a little over $3.
Okay.
The
I just
combined
want
tax
to, okay.
between Greater A and ours.
We are a slightly higher budget than them. Obviously, we have twice, 3 times more students in actually having in our district. So
Yes.
we're over 3.5 times more students. But again, it costs more to educate a high school student than it does an elementary school student. So I don't, they didn't discuss dollars, they just talked about going back.
Well, in concluding, I do want to say I appreciate how responsive administration has been. I'm very happy to see about the printing, reduction. Some things that I've talked about in the past have been noted, okay? Not everything can be changed in a day, but I do believe in budgeting to my core. And then second of all, I need to understand this because people are going to ask me how come and why, okay? And so I'm still very concerned. I understand about timing in life. There are key times to fish or cut bait. And finally, I'd like to say I also respect everyone's opinion. So thank you.
At this time, I will open it up to the public. I will ask 2 things. Number one, you have 5 minutes to speak so that everyone has an opportunity to speak, and at the end, you can come back if you have more to add. Secondly, when you come to the microphone, please state your name and if you're a Galloway resident or not. She has something to say? No? Okay. Yes.
Where's the microphone?
Microphone is over here, sir.
Good evening, my name is Bob Muller. I'm a resident of Blue Heron Pines, Galloway Township. I'm a member of a political action group that we have at Blue Heron Pines, and we also stay very close with our associates at Four Seasons and so forth. Superintendent was kind enough to meet with us a couple of times. As she knows, we've been very active with regional. Matter of fact, we met with Mr. Keenan again today. We meet with Galloway Township. We have met with the county and the county administrator. And we have met with our District 9 representative several times. And as the superintendent knows, we are trying to get through District 9 meeting with Dr. Hester. Taxes do become important. And thank you, all of you, for thinking about that. Last year, there was a meeting with the county over at Four Seasons. And there was a woman who got a recent widow. And she mentioned at the time that with the tax increases that she was faced with,
At that point, she had to spend 2 months of her Social Security to pay her taxes. On an individual basis, 2 years ago, my taxes went up $2,200. Last year, they went up $800. Our efforts have been to work with very aggressively with all of the entities that impact that tax rate. You can't look at one in isolation without the other, because as a taxpayer, we pay all. We certainly want good school systems. We certainly want our value of our homes protected. But at the same time, all of our budgets at home have to be guarded and have to be managed. And I know that the superintendent in our work with her has been doing a tremendous job in trying to do this, as has this board. It's not easy. Would ask for your consideration for all of the taxpayers. Yes, you have a tremendously positive timing opportunity right now, and that's great. You may never be faced with this type of opportunity again when you do the math. It's there. That at the same time as the board chairman has suggested, might be a time for compromise. We do know Galloway's going down in their taxes. We know that the county may go down, depending, and that's the big depending on the pilot and everything else that's going on. We also have an inkling as to where the regional school system is going to go. There may be some positive impact for Galloway because of the way certain things have worked out. But at the same time, the tax rate's going to go up because it was a bond issue that was passed. And Mr. Keenan has been good enough to pledge to us, and we met with him today and went over the figures, that there were offsets in the budget based on what was passed on the bond issue. So there is some positiveness coming out of all of this. But in the end, the taxpayers, many of them, cannot continue to afford all the increases that are coming through. And we do know that from the regional basis and from Galloway, there will be some increase. So I just ask you to consider, all right, a compromise may not be a bad thing. There's a lot of good political will that can be bought this year with some decent compromise. And the political will would be the political will of the taxpayer, who might sit back and say, no, they're doing the right things, they're doing the right things for the students, but at the same time, they're also considering us. And that's what I would ask you to think about. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to come forward and be heard at this time? We're not going to be voting this at this particular time later in the agenda. We are voting, but now is your opportunity to please come forward. Seeing no one else, I am going to move along the agenda. Before I begin the superintendent's report, I was remiss. We had a passing of one of our retired principals, who actually opened one of our newer schools, even though it's 20 years old, Dr. Hathaway. But Dr. Buddy Woods passed, and at this time, I would ask a moment of silence. Thank you, I appreciate that. And again, I apologize for not bringing it up sooner than I should have. Okay, let's move to the attorney's report, please.
Thank you. The student residency matter, another one of the changes regarding that situation, the auditor is going. The student matter due process, the previous matter that had arisen, the complaint due process I mentioned previously was scheduled for hearing in Trenton before administrative law judge. But it has been resolved by the respect to the occasion through mediation, alleviating the necessity of us having a court appearance. Construction, we're still awaiting final documentation for the dismissal, the large concept litigation we talked about previously, to dismiss us from that pursuit. Personnel issues have been handled. New construction is administrator to keep you abreast of modular construction. I have reviewed the fire alarm placement specifications for the two schools as mentioned before and submitted them back to the business administrator this evening as sufficient in all respects. That's it for this month. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Puccio. Any board members this time? Okay, Dr. Giaquinto.
Yes, student enrollment report. In district, as of the end of February, there were 3,296 students. If we add in student at special services, private schools for special needs students, home instruction, and charter, the total is 3,377. The out-of-school suspension report for February is also attached. And we do have a resolution to accept, modify, or reject the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report presented to the board on February 22nd, 2016 for the reporting period of January 21st through February 17th. And then resolution 5 is a resolution to approve the revised 2015-16 school calendar.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report that was presented to this board on the 22nd of February 2016 for the reporting period January 21st, 2016 through February 17th, 2016, and the resolution to revise the school calendar for the 2015-2016 school year, please? Thank you. Any board discussion? Any public comment? Please come forward, state your name, and if you're a Galloway resident. Take your time. We're here.
My name is Christy Flaherty. I am a Galloway resident. I currently attend Cedar Creek High School. My little brother comes here to GTMS. I came here to GTMS 4 years ago. I'm a senior. I'm graduating this year, and the big thing that's been stressing me out so much this year, besides college, is the fact that me and my little brother are graduating at the same time. And me and my brother are so close. He's special needs, so he's my whole world. And the fact that we're graduating at the very same time really stinks, because I can't see him graduate. But he can see me graduate, and my parents and our friends and our whole family has to choose which one of us they want to see graduate. And it's really been bothering us because it's so hard to choose between us. And I really want to see my little brother graduate. Cedar Creek moved our graduation up a whole day because of one student, and Galloway Township was saying that they're not taking into consideration Cedar Creek students because we're not descending schools. But we moved there's two other students in my school who are also affected by this, but they couldn't make it tonight. But we moved our whole graduation for one family because they had to split. So we would like to take into consideration those 3 families that have to choose between which child they would like to see graduate, which child they like more, in a way. They want to see graduate. So that was.
So to recap, make sure I understand this, the night that we have selected for our promotional ceremony is the same night that Cedar Creek is having the graduation?
Yes, the same time.
And at the same time?
Yes.
Well.
That's it. And my brother graduates at 5:30.
Okay, Dr. Giaquinto, this is something that you need to talk to us about.
Well, we did notice when we talked about the calendar, and for years, all of the Greater Range schools graduated on the same week. And we worked very hard to coordinate our calendar. As students go to more high schools, not just the choices within Greater Ed, but ACIT, Charter Tech, Choice to Ocean City, it becomes more and more challenging to schedule the middle school promotional ceremony. High schools cannot graduate until the last day of school. Middle schools do have some flexibility, but we also find it challenging to graduate before the last day of school. So when we were talking about what we were going to do with our calendar, I did ask Mrs. Junker to research, were there any conflicts with Cedar Creek and the middle school? And she was able to identify 3 students. 2 of them are on the same team and 1 is in a different team. The middle school promotional ceremonies run at 3 different times, the earliest one being 4 o'clock. So the team that is scheduled for 4 o'clock is the team that has 2 of the children who go to Cedar Creek. Since the middle school promotional ceremony is only about 40 minutes, if you've never been to one, you may not realize that it is not a 1 or 2 or 3 hour event. In talking with Mrs. Junker, we felt that the 2 children, we would schedule that team first. The student who is in the other team could also come to that ceremony at 4 o'clock. That's happened before for any number of reasons, be it a conflict with an older sibling in a private school or some other personal family need. If you think that ceremony will start promptly at 4, it will be done by 4:30. That whole team of students have to go and hand in their gown and and that can take some time. We would have an expedited situation for these 3 families where we believe with proper planning and everyone knowing this in advance, they could do both things. It would be challenging, but it could be done because of how quick our ceremony is. So we did discuss this in advance. I obviously have no control over Greater Egg having ceremonies on different evenings. That was something new this year.
So, if I could ask this question, so this young lady's sibling would be invited to the 4 o'clock promotion, and we could expedite parking perhaps and things like that, and I would say that you could probably be out of here before 5 o'clock and make it to Cedar Creek. Maybe we could work the same deal with preferential parking over there in light of the circumstances.
The other thing I was going to say, Mrs. Avery, if after her younger brother went across the stage, and this is true of the other 2 kids, we could have them seated in a place that they wouldn't even have to go back to their seat. They could kind of disappear out the side door, and we would take care of, as I said, Mrs. Junker and I did talk about this, and it is a challenge. Generally speaking, we align things with acts again. I mean, I will talk about back to school night. I will talk about concerts. But because there are 3 high schools, and because now the children don't all just go to one, we can't make everything work, especially when for something major, the high school doesn't even do things on the same night. But there was thought on the front side.
I think it's a great idea.
No, we have more comments, please.
One thing that I think is important to realize why a child here might have siblings in other private schools or at the county, ACIP, we do send children to Cedar Creek. Most of our kids do go to County, and I think, okay, well then it makes it terrible for a family to have to decide, as this family's deciding there. So.
They can go to Oakcrest, ACIP, Cedar Creek, Knox County.
And as a city.
Sean is our BCMS student, he's in 8th grade, he's a Galloway resident, and he would like to say, I want, just read it.
Three kids.
graduate. I want to see my teachers happy and proud that I have graduated. So please don't move the graduation date and earlier so that I will be happy again.
Thank you, Sean.
I'm Lori McHale. I'm Sean's mom, Galloway resident. Couple words. I wrote it, apologize. I have problems with my eyes, so it's really big font. It's not as long as you think it is. I want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight, and I'm going to try really hard to get through this without tears and getting emotional, but I have to express it. I can't tell you how many emotions are flooding through me with this conflict. The first question that has to be asked is, why is the calendar being changed? The calendar that was approved by the Board of Education February 9, 2015 clearly stated that if there was one snow day, that the Thursday of spring break would be removed as a day off, so that no additional days would be added to the end of the calendar. Why is that suddenly changed when people have used this calendar to plan by? With us having 2 graduations in the same year, we have used this calendar faithfully to plan. And I have been watching this calendar because as the dates were so close, and then back in December when Cedar Creek moved their graduation, this made me very nervous. But I was still within reason because we needed to have more than one snow day before this happened. When we did have the snow day, I contacted somebody who works for the school, and I asked them, what do you think will happen if we get another snow day? Because the high school has 5 snow days built into their calendar, where Galloway only has 1. And I'm afraid we will have a conflict. She got back to me and said they know of the change in the high school, and I'm sure they will take it into consideration and work around it. And now we're here looking to have the calendar changed, really without taking much consideration, in my opinion. I'm going to speak for myself and my family and let you know how much this is hurting our family, and that you have put yourselves in our place. And what would you do if you had to choose between your children? This isn't about which sporting event to attend because of scheduling a soccer game. This is graduation, and it should be treated as a major event that it is. And first off, completely and utterly shocked and can't believe that Galloway Township would do such a thing. And I am appalled that when I contacted the school, I was told it was only 3 children. But it isn't only 3 children, it is 3 children and 3 families. And it's my family. It's not only a few kids, it's brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews and aunts and uncles and grandparents and great-grandparents that you have to take into consideration. And family friends that we do consider family. Did anybody consider all of that? I can't imagine that they did, knowing. I just want to know exactly how do you expect us to choose between my children? How on earth do you think that I could pick one over the other? Should I choose which child I love best and go to that graduation? Do I explain to Sean that we're sorry we can't go to your graduation because your sister's is the high school graduation and is more important than yours because you'll have another one in 4 weeks? Exactly how do I explain that to him? These are 2 huge milestones in our children's lives and should be treated as such and not a hurry up and run from here to their event. These milestones each deserve their own day to be celebrated, enjoyed, and remembered. I was told that when I called the school that, sorry, it really only affected 3 kids, so we're sorry we can't do anything. The High School Board of Education moved the Cedar Creek graduation to accommodate 1 family, and yet Galloway can't understand why they can't do anything for multiple families. I quote from the email sent to the Greater Egg Harbor families. Our Board of Education recognizes the pride within our close-knit community and that family, extended family, and friends may want to attend multiple ceremonies. Therefore, we have reconsidered and adjusted our graduation date and time for the class of 2016. The slogan for Galloway Township Public School is where children and learning come first. Well, I have a real hard time believing that right now. How can you tell us the children come first and then tell us you're sorry because this change doesn't affect the majority of the kids, but only a small amount that have to make ultimate arrangements? Also, the district, sorry, I lost my place. I was offered to have Sean's graduation time moved from 5:30 to 4 o'clock with a different team. As this is the middle school situation, let me explain that I don't think this will work either. This means that He would be sitting up there with kids he may or may not know, without his friends that he's been with all year, and not without the teachers that he knows and he wants to see. He wants them to see him graduate. This also means that Sean's sister, Kristen, will not be able to attend graduation, as she will be in Cedar Creek getting ready for her own graduation. I can try to explain to you how close my children are, but you just saw them. This will destroy them, that they can't be at each other's accomplishments. Sean is special needs and doesn't really accept change well. I don't think that any child would under the circumstance, but especially with a special needs child. Kristen is very much a part of Sean's life and has been with him through everything, from helping him with homework, picking him up after school, and volunteering at all Sean's Special Olympics events as assistant coach. With the move of the calendar day, you don't just disrupt one graduation in one child's life, you do for both. I know that graduation date wouldn't be moved as the same date as Oxygammy, but I have to express that Cedar Creek should also be taken into consideration, as it is a sending school. Galloway Township Public School encourages kids to go to Cedar Creek. It's a different situation if we had gone outside of our sending district, but we did not. We're not asking for special accommodations for one child. It is multiple children and it is multiple families. It's still within the community and should be treated as such. Please take everything into consideration and put yourselves in our shoes on this side of the table when you please don't approve the new graduation date. I know I allotted my 5 minutes. My parents aren't able to be here as they live down in Maryland, but they did send a letter, if I may read that as well. Thank you. First, I'd like to thank Galloway Township Board of Education for the opportunity for our opinions, public regard in the graduation of our granddaughter and grandson. My husband and I live in Maryland, about 2.5-hour trip to Galloway. I am disabled and require an electric cart to get around. The decision to have both 8th grade graduation from middle school and his sister graduation from high school on the same day would be a very difficult trip for me. I realize that there may only be 3 families affected by this day ceremony, but our whole family has been thrown into varying and unhappy decision to attend which graduation, who will miss which segment of one ceremony. For 18 and 13 years respectively, we have nurtured these children and watched them grow. We are extremely proud of each of their accomplishments and do not want to miss a moment of any of the ceremonies. With all of the talent and experience which comprises, I am hopeful that you will do the right thing and schedule each graduation on a different day. Thank you again for this opportunity to express myself and look forward to a positive decision involving both of our grandchildren. Sincerely, Sandra and Andrew Hoffman.
Thank you very much. I think first thing I'd like to start off with saying is that the calendar is at the sole control of the Board of Education. We decide what is best for our students during the year. Obviously, we don't take into effect for a lot of weather days because that varies and that would add too much fluctuation in the calendar. When we set this a year ago, we had no idea that Greater Egg was going to play roulette with their graduation, so to say. But again, I just want to reiterate that the Board of Education set the calendar based on its priorities and concerns and what we can get accomplished in the 180 days allotted by the state.
But if I may, the calendar was set with one snow day in it. We only had one snow day, so I'm asking why did that get changed? We were supposed to lose Thursday of spring break. All of a sudden, we have Thursday off of spring break, and we added an extra day to the end of the school year. Graduation should be on June 10th. And now all of a sudden, with only a few months to go, it's being changed. That's our concern.
Julie, Madeline?
Can we talk about this in the executive session?
No.
Yeah.
An amendment on the motion that's on the floor, because what was, I believe was the motion was to accept number 4, the head report and the school calendar. I would make an amendment to the motion that they be separated for 2 separate votes instead of one vote. But then the amendment needs a second.
I presented on this 2, and combined the 2 into one resolution for brevity's sake, but if it pleases the board, we can make 2 separate motions. I would have to take the first and the second, wherever they were, I forget, and request the permission that we separate the motions to 2 separate. Who made the motion? Mr. Days? Is that okay with you? Who was the second?
I believe I was.
You were the second? Okay. So, all those in favor of separating these 2 separate motions, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The ayes have it. Fine, all right. Motion on the floor at this time is to accept the harassment and intimidation and bullying report that was presented to this board. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Days? Yes. Mrs. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan? Mr. Herbert?
Yes. Thank you. G. Quinto, before we vote on the calendar, do you have something you want to add?
President Hubbard, as you stated, the calendar is at the board's discretion. I will say this. The board members were given input regarding potentially staying open versus closed on the Thursday of spring break. And so I'm not exactly sure where everyone stands at this moment, but I do know who originally pushed very hard that we should remain closed on that Thursday, that it's a short enough break as it is, that these are very stressful and challenging times, that it is leading up until, park starts on April 18th, et cetera, and then keeping the full spring break was very important. And so I did do that homework before bringing this calendar to the board, in addition to pointing out the various graduation dates. As I said, there was no disrespect to the 3 families. We did look into that and did come up with a number of things that can be done so that the families can attend both sessions, both the middle school promotional and the high school graduation. I realize it has to be very well planned, but it was not something that was totally ignored. I would say it is March 14th. I believe it is too late to now tell people we are opening on the Thursday of spring break, because with the board of feedback, although the calendar was not officially voted on, I did get the okay to push out that information. So I do believe that if the board does not want to vote on this revised calendar as is, we need to come up with a third option, because I believe it is too late now to open on the Thursday of spring break.
Can I speak for a moment?
Yeah, I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't see you.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Please come, you got a microphone, because we're being televised.
Not live. It's recorded.
Hi, my name is Diane McHale. I'm a Galloway resident, also the grandmother of these 2 children. Most of what I was going to say has been said. But in conclusion, if you're coming up with a third idea, how about we leave graduation Friday the 10th, have your day off at spring break, and finish your school on Monday, if that's a compromise. I just had a granddaughter graduate 2 years ago. There's no way it's a half-hour graduation. You were there. It's not a half-hour graduation.
It's 40 minutes. I do it every year. The promotional ceremony itself, ma'am?
Yeah, no, coming in, this is graduation, pomp and circumstance, standing on stage, getting your diplomas, taking pictures, leaving with your class. That is graduation. Not coming on stage, getting your diploma and running. That's not graduation.
The ceremony was about 40 minutes.
The ceremony coming, from the time they come in the door,
Yes.
get onto the stage. Well, I beg to differ. But anyway, if you could leave on the 10th, that could solve the issue.
Have you been to a promotional ceremony since it is not the whole class at once? Because I
Yes, 2 years ago.
Okay, well, we timed it every year, and it was about 40 minutes last year.
Okay. But still, asking a child to run off the stage and get to the other one, get into the car, drive up to Cedar Creek, it's too much. Where you at least would have it on the 10th, which was originally planned, keep your day off for spring break, and have the last day of school on Monday.
President Hubbard, I do need to say I did discuss that with Mrs. Junker, and there is tremendous concern where there are not 400, but not quite 400 eighth graders to have them have their promotional ceremony on Friday evening and then return to school on Monday. Can it be done? Yes. It is not the preference of the middle school administration, and I understand that concern, having been the middle school principal for 8.5 years. That can be done, but I do believe I would want extra support on Monday, although we have many absolutely fabulous young people. Once they walk across the stage and receive their promotional certificate and they know everything's done, coming back the next day looks a little bit different to them, even to the very best children. You are correct, that is not.
Can I say something about that, or no?
Yes?
Well, I understand it from a teacher point of view, but if we held their diploma, they come to school Monday, you don't have to necessarily give the diploma on that Friday because it's not the 180th day of school. So you could technically hold it till Monday, okay, where they're signing their yearbooks, etc. So, it's last day of school, so, I understand the last day of school, it's whatever.
Well, I work at Stockton University, and I know the graduation they have. If they go to college, which I work in the business office, they don't receive their diploma until the bill is paid. They walk through graduation, they participate, they just don't get the diploma until the bill is paid. So it is an option. That would guarantee the students coming to school on Monday to get their certificate. And then there wouldn't be an issue at all with any other graduations at the Galloway, Cedar Creek, or Oakhurst. So it is consideration. I hope you do that. Thank you.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes, sir.
I really like Ms. Avery's suggestion there, where we're not changing the actual calendar, but by giving them not the promotional certificate on that Friday night there, or they come in on Monday to pick it up there. I think that is a good compromise that meets the needs of these particular families. It doesn't alter our vote on the new calendar. And yes, there will be some, work that the administrators will have to do for that Monday here, but I think it can be worked out.
President Hubbard, I do need to say the one thing that does concern me is there's no middle school administrator here this evening. I was not aware this was a topic. A parent did leave a message at my office, and the parent indicated that she was going to email me. I never received that email. I had my secretary call back and say, do you still need to speak with Dr. Giaquinto? The answer was, if I do, I will email. I have never received the email. So part of my concern about people in this room making a decision about the promotional ceremony being on Friday evening is we are leaving out the people that are responsible for arranging it and delivering it, and then having, whether the certificate gets given the Friday night or the Monday, without having any input into that discussion. And I'm just stating that as a concern on behalf of my administration and staff at the middle school.
That's a very vital.
To that point, the date of the promotional ceremony itself, though, isn't on the calendar, so we could approve this calendar, and then you could have that discussion with the administration at the middle school to determine feasibility.
If you approve the calendar as it is, and we have that discussion, then the question becomes, are we keeping it on the 13th, or is the board looking for the promotional ceremonies, which you are involved, to be on the 10th? Obviously, if it's hard to change the calendar. One of the discussions we originally had was to actually close, to give another day off, but then we realized that would be a conflict with Alciani and OPEX graduation, 2 of the 3 schools, so we didn't add the other day because that would take us to the 14th. So it is, again, it is March 14th, so this is a predicament. Obviously, whatever the board votes on the calendar, I will work with the administration to make it work.
Oh, I'm sorry to recognize you. Please come.
Can I still speak about this?
You need, yes, sir, this is open.
I know my name is Ryan McHale, I'm a Galloway resident, my family's here. I don't want to repeat too much about what they just said, but if you do go with the early graduation, for us to run out with other families, jump from school to school, try to find parking spots and seats and all that kind of stuff, it'd be very hard for us and other families to do that. I wish you take into consideration not just him and our immediate family, but the other families are going to these other graduations and the traveling and my mother-in-law was handicapped, as you just heard. It's very hard to go from one place to another and do all the other stuff. I do know that when you did have a snow day before, you did take off spring break in the past years. I was wondering why you're not doing it this year. I know the tests are coming, but it's still just one day. I mean, why don't you take consideration on that too? That's what I really need to say.
Thank you, sir.
So I may, how about, is it possible for us to move up the starting time, like till 3 o'clock on Monday?
Dr. G.
I believe dismissal is finished by around 12:30 or so that is an option to start the first ceremony earlier. It would be a tighter turnaround time, but I believe with the organizational skills of the administration and staff here at the middle school, that it could be accomplished.
And still have the young man at the first promotional ceremony.
We could work that out.
I'm looking at Beverly because I know she was a building principal in her past life.
That's like,
I'd like to say that I trust the administration and I would be put to work out the best possible plan so that children still do come first. And I appreciate her saying she wants to talk to her staff to make a decision. So I trust her to do that.
Are the parents be willing to come 3 o'clock?
He still wouldn't be graduating with his class.
Unless we change the teams.
If you change the teams, you change the one team.
2 of the children are on one team, and 1 of the children is on another team.
What is it? E, F, and G, something graduating, or whatever they are. E, F, and G, move F to the first, and E to the second, and let those 2 E kids move graduate with the F.
You're saying not.
E is an E.
Yes. And move it up to 3 o'clock. I don't know, I'm kicking it out. You know, everybody's looking at me like, we're looking for a solution here.
Change the teams. Fine.
Right.
But also to accommodate.
Because it's a special request. And again, I think Dr. G. Quinn hit the nail on the head. This is something for the administration to work out first. I don't want to make a decision haphazardly for them to have to enforce when we're not there coordinating. I think is a fair way to put it.
There should be some communication when they set their graduation dates. Instead of, like, somebody said, at one time, all 3 schools graduated at one time. So why can't they coordinate with every public school district? Or, I know it's tough, communication works sometimes.
Yes. All right, right now, the motion on the table is to approve the school calendar that does not include the graduation promotion.
The promotional ceremonies are not on the calendar.
Right.
That is something that is planned administration. Generally speaking, it is on the evening the afternoon when you think about before or earlier start of the last days.
We tried that, and I do remember for some of the newer members, when we tried to have a day before the last day of school, I believe the attendance was horrific. Yes.
Just don't give their college certificate. They have to.
They don't have to come and get it. They don't have to come and get it. At the end of the day, they don't have to come and get it, then we gotta mail it home. Okay. So, all right. I would think so, but I know we did this in the past one other time.
It's not just an issue of attendance, it's an issue of, I've already been to the ceremony, accountability regarding finishing that last day as good citizens and making good choices. And again, the overwhelming majority of children will. But when you hold that ceremony the evening before, you are setting a different tenor for the next day. And again, whatever the board votes on the calendar, if the board keeps the calendar the same but asks us to look at alternatives for the promotional ceremonies, we will absolutely do that. If the board chooses to change the calendar, so the last day of school is not the same day as the Cedar Creek promotion, the graduation, we will handle whatever the board does because that is our responsibility. And I certainly know this, we try to look very hard at Greater Ed's calendar, but we are not the same district and our calendars do not align. They do when they can, but for example, Greater Ed starts the staff before September 1st. We do not do that. So we don't have the same exact calendar and you know, they have some different philosophical beliefs and I agree, they need to run their school district and we need to lead ours and we do care about individual children. The fact that I did not know that the reason they moved Cedar Creek was to accommodate a family. There was no contact with our school district about how that might affect us if they made that change. So that is certainly something, and Mr. Keenan and I have a very good working relationship, that I need them to understand going the other way, that if they set dates and they change their graduation, there needs to be communication back with our school district as well, that it has to be a two-way thing. That doesn't help us this year, but certainly going forward, as more children do take the magnet programs and things like that, both districts need to be very cognizant of it.
Very true, very true. What I'll do at this time, there's a motion on the table, does not discuss promotion. I'm going to do a roll call on that specific calendar, and that I'll have the administration report back to us about the promotion options. Not yet, but that's what we're going to do.
Would that be a public meeting?
I'm sorry?
Would that be public so we can hear it?
Oh, absolutely.
Will we notify?
Oh, yeah, yes, I have instructed the superintendent for the administration to come back to us with a graduation, a promotion plan that after she's had a chance to discuss it with the building principal and the two assistant principals and the people, the major players involved. Obviously, it's just not the three of them. There's team leaders and all the other faculty involved, and come back to us with their options.
Mr. Kane, I believe this is a unique situation with a student related to some, I believe maybe a partial day, but I'll be honest, I remember that discussion, I don't know if it's that particular.
Yeah, partial day makes sense to me, but if there were,
I believe
total home
that's
instructions. And then the other one, item number 4, the Pilgrim student, for medical reasons, getting 10 hours a week. Is that a special education student that Pilgrim wise isn't 5 hours a week for general ed?
If it is 10 hours, it is a special education student. I do not remember discussing an option for that. But again, off the top of my head, I cannot 100% guarantee that answer.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any public comment? Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Amy?
Yes.
Mr. Davis? Yes. Mrs. Everson?
Yes.
Mr. Britton? Yes. Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Mr. Iron?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes. Thank you. move the finance and school operations, please.
President Hubbard, before I turn it over to Mr. Belize, I will tell you he brought with him language for 3 resolutions. Cap plus half the bank, and cap plus the full bank, because they were the 3 options we discussed last Monday. And the only thing that changes in the resolution are the numbers. However, I don't know that if you do something different than one of those 3 options, that we know what the numbers are without spreadsheets and things like that in front of us. I certainly defer to Mr. Belize, but I feel the responsibility to say that out loud before I turn it over to him. So I don't know what the board direction is, but the sheet for the public's information being handed to the board are the resolutions that have the formal language and numbers for what basically would lead to what I showed on the slide in terms of if the board goes to the full cap, it was $5.35. If they use half the bank, it was the $14.32. And if they use the full bank, it's $22 and some odd cents, matching the language of what you see on the page you have in front of you.
And again, this is going to the county super, but we again have until the end of April to change this.
Yes, President Hubbard.
Okay.
Hopefully we will get a resolution passed this evening because the budget is due to the county office by Monday, which basically gives the 4 days left this week, plus maybe a little time on Monday. But again, it could be changed on April 25th, if need be.
Okay. I'm going to take control right now. I'm going to open up for discussion the resolution for the budget. And since the administration has provided the 2%, 2.5% plus bank cap, and then the 2% plus the full cap of bank, what I'll do is we'll build a consensus, pass the resolution, knowing that, in fact, we still have another 5 weeks to further discuss this and change this if this is not the final outcome that the board is desirous of. So I'm going to need someone to make a motion, and we'll start with the 2% cap. If it doesn't pass, we'll go up to the 2.5%, and if it doesn't pass, we'll go up to the 2 plus the full. If it doesn't pass, then we're going to start bantering. We're going to start with the 2%.
I'd like to make a motion to pass the budget for next year at the 2% cap.
Is there a second to Mr. Hand's motion? Do I hear a second? I hear no second. The resolution is dead. Can I have a motion to accept the 2% plus 1/2 bank cap, please? That's Mr. Item first. Yes. There is a second on the table. Okay, the resolution not going to be voted on. Is there any discussion on the motion? Can I have a roll call vote on, okay, let me read it first, make it formal. Be it resolved that to approve the proposed school district budget for the 2016-2017 school year for submission to the Executive County Superintendent of Schools is as follows. Budget General Fund, $59,336,130, of which the local tax levy is $31,447,108. That the total special revenue fund for the budget is $2,794,142, of which there is no local tax. The debt service fund for the budget for 2016-2017 is $233,220, for which there is no local tax levy. The totals therefore are, the total budget will be $62,363,492, for which the local tax levy shall be $31,447,108. Be it further resolved to acknowledge that the 2015-2016 budget, as described below, results in a general tax levy of $31,447,108 and a debt service tax levy of nothing. Be it further resolved that the pursuant of Code 6A-23A-7.3, budgeted travel expenses do not exceed $50,000. Pursuant to New Jersey Code, the maximum dollar amount for public relations and professional services has been established and are detailed in the appropriate sections of the 2016-2017 budget. Can I have a motion on the resolution as read? I already got it. Now, that's right. I got that myself. Do me a favor. Before you take roll call vote, change the order. It's not fair to Ms. David to go first every time. I know, but yep. He made the motion.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Now you go anywhere.
Anyway. Mrs. Emerson?
Yes.
Mr. Pure? Mr.
Yes.
Rick? Mr. Hand?
No.
Mrs. Avery?
No.
Mr. Burton?
Yes. Motion carries 5-2. Resolution 2, please.
Resolution to approve the Princeton Speech Language Learning Center for speech evaluation and cost $350 per evaluation and the dates indicated. Resolution to approve the one-on-one aid to the student as indicated at Galloway County Special Services School District, Mays Lakeview campus, beginning on the dates indicated for $43,740 prorated. Out of district placement, resolution to approve the following out of district professional development activities. Travel. As indicated for the National Association of Social Workers Annual Conference. As indicated for $380 and $60 travel.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 2, 3, and 4 under finance, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any board discussion? Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Hand?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Hubble?
Yes. Thank you. Facilities and maintenance, please.
Yes, I'll allow Mr. Release to continue, and I know some of the board members were at the previous, so they may want to join in.
The pre-bid fire alarm project, the bid conference was held, or the pre-bid conference was held on March the 8th. We had, I believe, 3 contractors, 1 subcontractor there at the meeting. There was a amendment, addendum put out on this very small one by the architects, and the bid will be on the 22nd of March, and hopefully we'll get them all for this student. Any of the other comments of today's or?
Good, thank you.
On the modulars, we've been weeks delayed at least on the modulars. And with the weather today, I know this week, there might be further, but they had poured the footings, they are ready to deck it, they have put the tied-in modulars together, and the electrical is being completed, the length of the electric hookup is still pending at this time. And if the weather holds up, they have a possibility of maybe by the end of the week.
That's good.
I went back there yesterday, and it looks pretty good, to tell you the truth. They're not there, almost look like it's finished, except for the hookups.
Okay.
Just from the instructional side of that, we did have special needs students that were scheduled to start this week. So Dr. Gross and Mrs. Goldman did work out a plan. As you may recall, 3-year-old special needs students start school when they turn 3. So they turn 3 on different dates during the month. So we were able to start a small number of them in other classes with their teacher and assistant, so we did not have to delay the special needs children starting school. And hopefully we will be able to actually open next week. One of the general ed classes, happens to be Mrs. Geary, who's here tonight, is moving out to the modular because the modular is funded with the preschool expansion grant, and the special education class will be in the building itself. But fortunately, with the help of our administration and teachers, we were able to get some of the children started despite the delay.
Thank you. Any board members want to add anything else to the report? Sir?
Not this last week, we were making before, and they're out there working hard on the weekend, Sunday. So, that's all it's good, next try.
Oh, good. It's a very good company. Thank you. Moving use of school facilities, please.
Thank you. Resolution 1 is GTAA Girls Softball requests the use of fields at GTMS for practice and games on weekdays after 5 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays beginning March 2016 through June 20th. Item 2, GTEA Boys Baseball requests the use of district fields for practice weeknights and Saturdays from March 15 through June 15, 2016. Resolution 3 is PAL Girls Basketball requests the use of the Roland Rogers Gym for practice on Tuesdays beginning March 22nd through June 7th from 6 to 8 p.m. Resolution 4 is the Atlantic Cape Wildcats AAU Girls Basketball requests the use of Roland Rogers Gym for practice on Thursdays beginning March 24th through June 9th, 2016 from 6 to 8 p.m. And then finally, Resolution 5 is First Level Sports requests the use of Reed's Rogers Gym on Wednesday nights for youth basketball training beginning March 30th, 2016 through May 26th, 2016, 6 to 9 p.m. And there's a special note on that one. It is Galloway children participating. And I will note in terms of the field use, our maintenance department identifies which fields are available, and then Mrs. Phillips, the maintenance secretary, coordinates that with the township as needed.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 1 through 5 inclusive under community use of school facilities, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis? Yes. Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Henry? Yes. Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Burke?
Yes. Thank you. Personnel, please.
Thank you, President Hubbard. Resolution 1 is to accept a letter of resignation from Allison Niven, science teacher at GTMS, effective May 2nd or sooner if a suitable replacement is found. Resolution 2 is accept a letter of resignation from Jean Hiltner, 10-month secretary at Smithville Elementary School, effective March 11, 2016. Resolution 3 is to approve the maternity leave request from Lauren Wheaton, kindergarten teacher at Smithville Elementary School. The dates and terms and conditions are listed. Resolution 4 is to approve John O'Kane as a special education behavioral disabilities teacher at GTMS for the 2015-16 school year, effective March 15, 2016 through June 30, 2016. The terms and conditions are listed. Resolution 5 is to approve Harrison Cade as a BD classroom assistant at GTMS for the 2015-16 school year, effective March 15 through June 30. Again, the terms and conditions are listed. Resolution 6 is to approve William Maganello to receive $45 per day additionally when acting as an elementary teacher in the computer lab through June 30, 2016, and this is effective February 29, 2016. Resolution 7 is to approve the following substitute teachers for the 2015-16 school year effective March 15 through June 30, 2016, pending successful completion of the criminal history review. The various rates and accounts are listed, as is the name of each individual and whether or not he or she is certified. Under supplemental positions, Resolution 8 is to approve the following teachers for supplemental instruction, extension of the school day for the 2015-16 school year. The terms and conditions are listed, as are the names of the teachers. Resolution 9 is to approve the following staff to attend mentor novice teacher training. The hourly rate and hours are listed, as are the names of the individual. It should be noted that this is funded through NCLB Title II-F. Resolution 10 is to approve the following Roland Rogers Elementary School teachers for the morning academic skills enrichment program. The hourly rate for teachers and classroom assistants are listed, as are the names of the individuals. This is also funded through NCLB, this time Title I. Resolution 11 is to approve the following teacher for the spring 2016 semester of the Southern New Jersey Consortium for the Gifted and Talented. The hourly rate and account are listed. It should be noticed that that is an enterprise account.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 1 through 11 inclusive under personnel, please?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any board discussion?
Yeah, I just have a question for the superintendent. The position for Mr. Kane in the behavioral class this year, which I really think is needed, and it's a good thing. And some of the other special ed teachers that were added this year, are they rolled over to the budget for next year, or are they just 1 year stopgap?
Mr. Han, all of that is accounted for in the annual exercise that we do, that every special ed director I've ever worked with calls bingo, where they do a review of the current IEPs. They look at the students that are being evaluated, they roll those numbers up, they look what programming is needed. So the number of teachers that are included in the proposed 2016-17 budget include those resource center positions and the self-contained positions that are required for next year. If I remember correctly off the top of my head, I believe there are a couple fewer resource positions needed, but some additional self-contained positions needed, and all of that is accounted for in the budget.
Thank you. Any other questions? My topic, 2 new positions.
Yes. That is correct, President Hubbard. I wrote to the board about them, I believe, 2 bulletins ago.
You did, I do count. Any other board comments? Any public comment? Can I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Davis? Yes. Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Hand?
Yes.
Mr. Ironton?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Motion is carried. Policy,
No policies this evening.
notice of meetings, please.
Yes, the next March board meeting is on a Tuesday because of spring break, and that is March 29th. In April, we have 2 meetings, the 11th and the 25th. As noted, one of those is the public budget hearing, and then the board institute, which is this Friday and Saturday. I do want to applaud as well, President Hubbard, we do have new staff members with us this evening.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
That is okay, they've been waiting very patiently.
Well, that's good.
I know Mrs. Johnson could not be here this evening. Mrs. Baldwin, did you want to do the honors? Thank you.
Well, I'm very pleased to introduce John O'Kane to the Board of Education as our DT teacher. We also have Harrison Behavior. The 2 of them have worked really well together, developing the program. We've had our behaviorists working with the both of them on behavior plans. And the biggest commendation I have for both of them is just reaching out to the young men that will be in the program and making sure that they are ready to go tomorrow. So they put a lot of time into building their class, building the community that we really want to see come out of the program. And I'm very happy to have them as part of the special education staff here in Galloway. So, congratulations to both of them.
That's great. Thank you very much, Ms. Baldwin.
Special events, something very exciting, Lion King Jr. right here on the G TMS cafeteria on March 31st and April 1st and 2nd.
Is there no plug by Mr. Conover? or-
Come out and see it.
I think that's it.
It'll be like nothing you've ever seen before.
I look forward to it. Thank you. I guess we'll go right around the board. And then I'll open up the public comment afterwards. Okay, we'll start with Tom. Do you have anything you want to share with the board this evening? It's pretty good.
I just completed the New Jersey School Board's training this weekend, and I found it very valuable. We're Friday night, Sunday.
Good. Thank you. Beverly?
No.
Robert? Nothing? Madeline? Richard?
All I can say is everybody do not forget St. Patrick's event at Roman Irish School Thursday night. I'm not going to have to.
Michael?
I'm going. Everybody gonna come see Mike have his pear shade.
The Reeds Road Creek Committee met for the first meeting recently, and there's a lot of stuff going on. The school has already received a $2,000 grant for composting from the cafeteria, so all of the food waste from lunches will be composted daily. They did a trial run to determine the quantity they could expect, collecting compostable food waste, and kids were really excited about that. There's lots more going on as well. I will be coming back to the board in the future. There's an anti-idling aspect to it. Initially, we thought they actually wanted a district policy, but it looks like they want essentially the board and district to sign an anti-idling pledge, which is something that is already the law in New Jersey. So the real effect is not much. It also involves installing some anti-idling signs at the school, which are actually going to be donated by the Go Green Galloway team. Got grant money to purchase a bunch of signs for the council, who recently passed a municipal ordinance on anti-idling, and we're benefiting from their grant. They're ordering a few extra signs for us. There's also a big public Goes Green event, April 22nd. Families at Reeds Road have had sent home a hand to sign as a family, as a pledge to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And families were asked to create art treasures from things that would otherwise be thrown out. And they are going to be on display at the event, and prizes for the best family creation. So the committee is very, very active, extremely active. And so it's looking like we'll have another school with that silver level sustainability award. You know, there's only 5 schools in the state, middle school being one of them. So it looks like Reeds Road is going to be joining them.
Wonderful news. Good, thank you. I have a couple comments. I participated in Read Across America Day at the Smithville Elementary School a couple days ago. I guess it was, from Dr. Seuss. Very good, I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoy those days. Friday, I asked that everyone be there between 3 and 4, if all possible, later than 5. We'd like to get dinner started promptly at 5, so that we can start the meeting by 7. So, if you show up at 5, you show up at 5, but if you can get there earlier, I'd appreciate it, so we probably start dinner and then move right into the meeting afterwards. Just for the public's information, the Board Institute that we hold annually and have been holding for, I believe, 15 years. This is not taxpayer funded. This comes out of all board members' individual pockets. Yeah, it comes out of our salary. So, there's been questions in the community about that. No, we pay 100% of it out of our pocket. Okay, is there any public comment that come before the Board of Education this evening for the good of the order? Okay, do we have executive session?
We do.
We do. Okay. We do. All right. With that being said, can I have a motion to go to close? We need a second. Thank you. Thank you. Be it resolved that in pursuant to section 708 of the Open Public Meeting Act, the public meeting of the Galloway County Board of Education, the following subject matters to be discussed in the session of the board closed to public personnel. The President of this meeting, pension this resolution, and it will be disclosed to the public as soon as possible. All those in favor?